Right now, while half the country cranks the AC and dreads the power bill, there are Amish families staying cool with none of it. No air conditioner, no electric fan, no monthly bill. You'd think they'd be roasting, but they're perfectly comfortable because they're still using tricks that crossed the ocean from Germany 300 years ago. Those settlers got called the Pennsylvania Dutch, but they were never Dutch. That name is just a mangled version of the German word Deutsch, and by the end I'll show you how they turn a plain, wet bedsheet into a working air conditioner that costs nothing to run. Let's start with number 10, the spring house. The old German settlers built a tiny stone hut right over a spring or a running stream, and it sounds pointless until you hear what it does. The water bubbling up from underground sits at about 55 degrees all year, and it never stops flowing. They ran that cold water through stone troughs inside and set their milk, butter, cream and meat right down into it. Everything stayed fresh for days with no ice and no machine. It's a refrigerator that runs on a creek. Amish families still use them, and most people miss the cleverest part because they'll stack sweet corn picked at sunrise in there so it stays crisp right up until they sell it that evening. Cooling your food is one thing, but stopping the sun from baking the whole house is a different fight, and the Germans built a weapon right into the window for it. That window weapon is number 9, the roller den. There's a stat here that should embarrass every American power company. In Germany, summers now climb past 95 degrees, yet fewer than 5 homes in 100 have any air conditioning. Their answer is the Rollladen, a solid slatted shutter that rolls down on the outside of the window, and that one word, outside, is the whole trick. It stops the sunlight before it ever touches the glass, so the heat never makes it inside. Done right, that shutter blocks up to 90% of the heat that would have come pouring in. A blind on the inside can't do that because by then the heat's already in the room and you're just trapping it. The Amish run the same idea with outdoor shutters, awnings, and heavy curtains, all shut tight on the sunny side. Shutters slam the door on the sun, but the Amish had a sneakier way to keep cooking heat out completely, so they built a whole second kitchen, number 8, the summer kitchen. A wood stove roaring all day to cook meals and canned vegetables throws off a punishing amount of heat, and the last thing you want in July is that furnace blasting right next to where you sleep. So the Pennsylvania Dutch built a separate little kitchen, set off from the main house, used only in the warm months. The cooking, the canning, the smoking, the pickling, all of it stayed outside, and so did the heat and the smell. The main house stayed calm and cool while the real oven did its job at a safe distance. You'll still spot these detached summer kitchens tucked behind old German farmhouses all over Pennsylvania. Keeping the heat out was half the battle. However, the walls themselves were quietly pulling off something genius the whole time. Number 7 is those walls, the thick stone wall. Old German and Amish homes were built with serious mass, thick stone or brick, sometimes twice as thick as the walls in a modern American house. Some early settlers took it to an extreme. A house called Fort Zeller, built back in 1745, had walls so thick and windows so small it could double as a fortress. All that stone works like a giant battery for temperature. Heat from outside has to crawl through the whole thickness of the wall, moving so slowly that by the time it reaches the inside, the sun's down and the cool night air is soaking back in. Builders call this thermal mass. It's why a stone church feels icy in July while everyone outside sweats. The wall holds on to last night's cool and hands it back to you all day. Thick walls buy you those hours, but the Amish also fought the heat before it ever reached the wall using something that grows in the yard. 460 homes in Sacramento and found trees on the west and south side. That brings us to number 6, the shade tree. The Amish don't scatter trees around the yard by accident. They plant the big leafy ones on the south and west sides on purpose, since the west side takes the worst afternoon sun. And they pick trees that drop their leaves in fall, so you get thick shade all summer, then bare branches that let the winter sun back in when you actually want it. The payoff is bigger than you'd guess. The Department of Energy says the air right under a shade tree can run up to 25 degrees cooler than the air over open pavement. Researchers tracked cut summer electric bills while trees on the north side actually raised them. Put them in the right spot and shade, trees can shave your cooling costs by as much as a quarter. Shading the house from outside is smart, but the coldest air on the whole farm was somewhere nobody was even looking. Number 5 was hiding underground, the root cellar. Dig down into the ground or into the side of a hill, get below the frost line, and something strange happens. The temperature down there locks in around 50 to 55 degrees all year. The Pennsylvania Dutch called it the Grundkeller, the ground cellar, and they packed it with potatoes, cabbage, apples, and jars of canned food that stayed cold with zero power. Some families dug the cellar first, then built the whole house right on top of it. Imagine walking out of 95-degree air, down a few stone steps into a room sitting quietly at 53. No compressor, no hum, just dirt doing the work for free. The ground keeps food cold beautifully, but up in the daylight, the Amish had a dirt-cheap way to bounce the sun off the house before it soaked in. Number 4 is a cheap bucket of whitewash. Old lime whitewash is nothing fancy, just crushed limestone mixed with water and brushed straight onto the walls and sometimes the roof too. White bounces sunlight away instead of drinking it in, while a dark wall does the opposite, soaking up heat all day and breathing it back into your rooms at night. This isn't a new idea either. Whitewash was all over medieval Europe for this same reason, and the settlers carried the recipe across the ocean with everything else they knew. The National Park Service says a coat of lime wash on a roof can drop the temperature inside a building by as much as 10 degrees. It's dirt cheap, it lets the wall breathe, and when it wears thin, you brush on more. Bouncing the sun off the surface handles the daytime. However, the Amish were just as sharp about what they did the second the sun went down. After sundown comes number 3, the night flush. The Amish flip their whole day around the temperature. Through the blazing afternoon, the windows stay shut and the shutters stay closed, sealing the heat outside where it belongs. Then, the moment the sun drops and the air cools, every window flies open and the night breeze rushes clean through the house. They crack the top floor windows too because heat rises, so the hottest air slips out the top while the family settles onto the cooler, lower floors. Open by night, sealed by day, the exact opposite of what most folks do in a heat wave. Pushing that cool night air through the house works wonders, but on the truly savage days, the Amish did something bolder. They picked up and moved themselves. Number 2 is where they actually lived, the bank house. This one is pure old-world engineering. Instead of plopping the house on flat ground, the Germans and Swiss dug it straight into the side of a hill, so the whole back wall and the entire basement sat buried in cool earth. They even put the kitchen and the main living space down in that ground floor, wrapped in stone and soil, with the bedrooms up a winding staircase above. On a scorching day, the family just moved down into that lower level, where the earth holds the room 15 to 20 degrees colder than the sun-baked floors upstairs. They'd eat, work, and sleep down there when the nights turned merciless. No machine, no bill, they simply followed the cool air down into the hill. Living inside the earth kept them comfortable through anything, but the number 1 trick doesn't wait for the ground to do the work. It makes cold air on the spot, out of almost nothing. And number 1 is the one you can steal tonight, the DIY swamp cooler. This last one seems impossible until you watch it work. When water evaporates, it physically pulls heat out of the air around it, and the Amish put that plain fact to work with a bucket and a bedsheet. They soak a sheet or a thick cloth, then hang it across an open window, right where the breeze is already flowing in. The moving air pushes through the wet fabric, the water evaporates as it passes, and the air coming out the far side is noticeably colder than the air that went in. Drape a damp towel where the air moves, and you've built an air conditioner out of a bucket of water. It works best in dry heat, and it's the same science behind those big modern swamp coolers people pay real money for. The Amish version just costs nothing to run. Do it right, and a hot, stuffy room can cool down in minutes, with no power grid required. That's the whole list, and not one of them needs electricity. Thick stone walls, smart shade, outdoor shutters, a cellar dug into the hill, and a wet sheet hung in the window. This is 300-year-old German know-how the Amish carried across an ocean and never let go of, and it all still works in a normal house today. If this made you want to try even one of them the next time the heat rolls in, hit that subscribe button, because we bring back the old ways that still beat the new ones.